Storytelling Techniques Part 1. When an audience listens to or watches a story being presented to them, they do something called suspending their disbelief. This means that they are willing to stop questioning every little thing that doesn't line up with reality. For instance, when we're watching Star Wars movies, we're willing to believe in lightsabers and aliens and the Force. We don't get hung up on the fact that faster-than-light travel is impossible as far as science is concerned. We stop using or suspend that disbelief. As storytellers, we owe it to our audience to do everything we can to maintain that suspension of disbelief. People immerse themselves in stories to escape from reality or look at things from another person's point of view. They want to be entertained. We don't want to break that immersion. We don't want to yank them back to reality when they were happy enjoying a story. The audience trusts us not to let them down. They trust the storytellers to help them maintain the illusion of the story. So how do we do that? First, we be reliable. If you tell us in the beginning of the story that your monsters are called Burgleborg, don't arbitrarily start spelling it Bargleberg halfway through your story. This will make your audience pause and wonder if this is a new monster, the same old monster, a close relative, or just a spelling mistake. They will be forced to remember that this is a story, something you made up. They will have to examine the story as a story and not just experience the blissful escapism. Be internally consistent. If you started out by saying your monsters can't fly, don't mention them soaring overhead into the sunset at some point later in the story. When you set up rules for your world, you can't break them. Your audience is counting on you to know how things work and to continue to make things work out in the way that makes sense. Don't push too far. If you get too far away from anything your audience has ever experienced, you can also break their suspension of disbelief. They have to have something they can hang on to that is familiar enough that they can relate to what's going on. They need to be able to think to themselves, yes, I can see how that would happen. A great example of this is Alice in Wonderland. That story had a lot of very strange things going on, but through the whole thing we have Alice, who is very normal, and we can relate to her. So even when she's talking to giant caterpillars, we can suspend our disbelief because Alice reacts the way we would in that situation. She is our touch point of familiarity. Next, let's talk about Poe's theory of composition. You may have heard of Edgar Allan Poe. He wrote some fantastically creepy stories and poems more than 100 years ago. You could say he was the original goth. Besides writing about talking ravens, dead girls, and disembodied beating hearts, he also tried to explain the process he used for creating all these tales of terror. The essay where he explains it is a very dense, obtuse read. I'm not going to make you look it up, and I'm not even going to quote from it. I'm going to pick out the parts that apply to storytelling in games, which he didn't do a lot of back in 1830. In a nutshell, Poe said that you should know where you are going when you sit down to write. You should know how long your piece is going to be, how many characters are in it, and what is going to happen. He advocated doing a lot of planning ahead and then executing on that plan. He said having the plan helped you keep on track and made your iterations and revisions improve the work as a whole instead of breaking it down. Keep in mind, he was writing this in response to a lot of people who were saying the best way to write was just to sit down and let the creative juices flow, taking you wherever the muse wandered. They would claim they didn't know what was going to happen one sentence to the next, and the story just wrote itself. Poe said this sounds like a pleasant way to spend an afternoon, but you won't necessarily end up with a usable story. Daydreaming isn't the same thing as storytelling. When you daydream, the only person you have to please is yourself. Nothing has to really make sense or take into account another person's point of view. In storytelling, you have to convey meaning to an audience. This can take a lot of work, a lot of writing and rewriting, and making sure that your audience gets the information that you're trying to convey. So Poe's theory is that instead of daydreaming, you want to end up with a story other people will enjoy. You have to take some time and do some planning ahead of time. I agree with Poe, but when it comes to making games, there is another reason for doing all this planning ahead. It's one word: teamwork. Today, most games are not made by just one person. There are rare exceptions, but the vast majority are made in teams ranging from 5 people to 105. A game idea can start with one team and have so many different people switching in and out of a group that by the end it's an entirely different team of people. In settings like this, clear planning and communication are essential. As a designer, you have to get the whole team to buy into your vision and work together to bring that vision to life. You don't have the luxury of having an exciting beginning you can tell everybody about, and then one day you'll sit down and daydream through the middle and end. You need a complete plan before the making of the game begins, and you need to be able to communicate clearly about those plans to the team. Edgar Allan Poe was right. For how all this and more relates to your assignments for this week, see Part 2.